My name is Zach Delancey, and today I'll be giving an explanation on how to carve a pumpkin. First off, some generic safety tips. Don't let very young kids carve a pumpkin, especially without adult supervision, and they should never use things like a regular kitchen knife. Should use more go to Walmart or somewhere and get the kid-friendly pumpkin carving utensils. That's some safety tips. Just always be careful when you're working with anything sharp. Cut yourself, be aware of your surroundings. And step one, picking out the right pumpkin. One of the first things you want to look for is you don't want a pumpkin that's too heavy. If it's too heavy and dense, then the walls are going to be too thick. And the bad thing about having a pumpkin with thick walls, it's going to be difficult to carve, and it's more dangerous to carve as well. Another way you can tell how dense the pumpkin is, knock on it. Is you want to hear a slight hollow sound when you tap on the pumpkin. If it doesn't sound hollow, once again, the walls are probably too thick and it's going to be a pumpkin that's difficult to carve. You also, when you're picking out a pumpkin, don't want one with really soft to push in walls. It's not going to last long, it's going to be a pain to carve, and it's not going to end up too well. You want one that's firm, but you don't want it as hard as, say, a piece of wood. It's also going to be hard for that knife to go through and cut. But once you've picked out your pumpkin, which once again needs to have a steady base, that way it doesn't rock back and forth, and it can support its own weight on a flat surface. That way it's not rolling around everywhere once you get it carved. But after you've picked it out, you want to go ahead and wipe it off. This one's been already prepped. Go ahead and wipe it off with a damp cloth or something like that, just to get any dirt or residue left over from the store left on it. Just make it all nice and clean. After it's clean, you want to prepare your work surface. What I did here, I just cut a trash bag open and laid it down on the picnic table just to keep from making a mess everywhere. Just makes the cleaning process easier when you're finished with the pumpkin. Once you're prepared and have all your tools laid out, the first step is to cut the top out. That way you can then gut the pumpkin and furthermore. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take a knife and you want to cut it at about a 45-degree angle. If you cut straight down, the top is going to fall straight through, and if you cut it that way, the top's not going to look right. So you want to cut it about a 45-degree angle all the way around the pumpkin. That way when you take the lid off, you can set it down. When you're done carving it, you can put it back on top and it fits tight. So once again, always be careful when cutting anything with a sharp edge, so you don't want to cut yourself. And instead of going all the way around it, sometimes it's easier to push in and do it portion by portion and gradually get that curve, because it's going to be tough to fight trying to go all one by one. And try to retain that 45-degree angle as you go all the way around the pumpkin. Some can be a little bit difficult once you get the knife in there all the way. You just have to wiggle it a little bit to break it free. Try to keep this about the same distance away from the stem all the way around. That way the top is even. Be aware of any utensils that may fall off the picnic table as you're cutting the top off as well. As you go around, it's easy to just turn the pumpkin with one hand as you carve the top out. Make sure the edge meets where you originally started. Now take and just go all the way around again, just to make sure the lid is free, and it will come up easily. Go all the way around it and make sure there's nothing holding the lid to the pumpkin, and it should be fairly easy to pull off. Now, once you've got that off, go ahead and be careful and cut all the strings and seeds off the top of the lid while you've got it in your hand. And let it fall back in and clean it up when you gut it, or however you please. I usually just try to make it flat and cut all the stuff off around the edges just to make it clean. Now that that's done, you can set it to the side and grab your choice. Some of the pumpkin kits come with a little plastic thing you can gut the inside with. You can get a big spoon, a little spoon, or probably end up using both like I'm doing. So after the lid is cut off, just take the spoon and scrape the sides of the pumpkin. Get all the guts and seeds out of it. Some can be difficult and just have to press a little bit harder to try to get all the mess out of it. As you can see, it's filled full of guts and seeds. Just want to try to get as most out as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. And sometimes it's helpful to have a trash can handy beside you. That way, just to keep everything cleaned up around your work area. Alright, so once you get the pumpkin completely cleaned out, yeah, as good as you wish. It doesn't have to be perfect. It is a pumpkin, you know. Once you get that cleaned out, you can go ahead and take a pencil and etch out a design and go over it with a Sharpie. That way you can erase or however you like. So just go ahead and some people like to use stencils. You can buy some in books at stores or print some off online. You just tape a stencil on here and carve it out. You can poke them out along the stencil if you wish to give you an edge, and then just take a saw and carve it. Or like I'm doing, you can just take a Sharpie and make whatever design you wish. You can make anything from a face, a design, a certain theme, like a scene. Some people will take and instead of just carving something, they'll actually engrave all around the pumpkin. I've seen that done. If you have plenty of time on your hands, that would be a cool thing to do with a pumpkin. But for now, I'm just going to make a simple face. And when you draw here, once again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just kind of an outline you can fine cut with the saw or knife of your choice. Halfway there. A couple eyes, nose, jagged teeth, you know, in the Halloween spirit. Gotta make it a little scary. 'Tis the season. The only bad thing about drawing on it in Sharpie is when you make a mistake, you make a mistake. You can either not cut it or just go with it. Because that's one thing you can't erase is Sharpie. You can take your time, get as precise as you want with the drawing, or just kind of roughly go over something. All depends on how much time you've got and how detailed you want to get. Alright, so you can see I've just quickly drawn just a generic pumpkin face on here. Like I said, you can do whatever you wish. Face, you can put a person's face on there, stencil, cat, ghost, whatever you choose. But after you've got your design on there, it's it's just something that comes with the pumpkin carving kit. Take and poke a hole along the edges. It makes it easier when you saw and go through and cut everything. You can either just do a small point or try to go through it as much as you wish. It just helps you follow the edges when you go through and carve the pumpkin. So once you've got everything poked out like you wanted, with just a little hole punch if you wish to do that step, you don't have to go along the whole line of what you draw. You can just do like the corners and main parts of the curve. It's more or less there just to help you line up when you cut it and carve it. And then once you've got your design done and cut out as you wish, and fight with bugs while you're outside, you can just take a regular pumpkin carving saw that comes with the pumpkin kit. Just the safe tool to use when carving a pumpkin. And you want to go on the outside of your Sharpie line. If you did it, outline it in Sharpie. That way you don't see the Sharpie once you get everything carved out. All you see is the pumpkin. And you want to cut it at a slight angle. That way, if you decide to put a candle in it, the light will reflect through it, and you can see it illuminate better. And just take your time sawing. Go carefully. You don't want to be too hasty and cut yourself or mess up on your design. In tough curves, it can be kind of difficult sometimes with the pumpkin saw to get a perfect circle. So just do the best you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. And remember to follow don't get carried away in cutting. You want to follow the design that you either stenciled in or drew on the pumpkin. That way everything turns out as you intended. And then once you've got one part cut all the way out, like this eye here, you can either try to push it towards and away from the pumpkin, like inside and then back out from the inside of the pumpkin, just to help get everything free. And then one way or the other, either through the pumpkin or back out, it's going to be easier. You can pull that whole chunk out and just throw it away. Once you've got everything cut out, you can go through, like I said before, just take your knife, take a saw, or the spoon that you used before to gut it. I just took and kind of cleaned out some of the edges back around on the inside to try to get some things, just guts and stuff that were falling out, and cut around. And especially with teeth, sometimes you have to get the knife out and try to cut and make sure that you get all the little pieces out of the pumpkin, of the teeth, because sometimes you can have little chunks that just get stuck, and you just got to go around and cut out and make it clean as you wish. But I've got my design cut out. Once you get the design cut out, you can take the spoon again and make you room at the bottom. Just kind of like dig out a little spot, a flat spot that will just kind of surround the candle and hold a candle up in there straight. Because if you decide to put a candle in it, you don't want the candle flipping over, wax going where it shouldn't be, and potentially being a fire hazard if anything were to get dropped in there or fly in. You just don't want a candle in on the side. So just clean out a spot in the bottom of it if you want to put a candle. And then after that, you can set your candle down in there, light it if you wish, take the lid we cut off earlier. Just kind of, it's only going to go back on one way, so sometimes you have to turn it around on the top like I did to get it to fit right. But once you get your lid back on there and candle in, if you decide to do so, that is your carved pumpkin. So we went through the steps on how to carve a pumpkin today. Hopefully, if you had any questions before, this is cleared up for you, and you can go pick out your pumpkin and have fun. Have a happy Halloween. Good luck carving.